All right. Hey, everyone. I'm live and I'm so sorry I'm a little late, but I'm here. And if you're here, so glad that you made it today to the Overwhelm Fix Masterclass. Can I get a thumbs up, a like, or a heart if you're here? Just say here. I'm here. I'm excited to see you here. Super, super good. Welcome. I'm just going to make sure I can see the comments here. Give me 1 second. All right, welcome, welcome. Yes, hi Jolie, great to see you. We're here and we're going to go through some really exciting stuff. So let's just take a moment to presence ourselves and arrive wherever you've been coming in from. Just go ahead and we're going to give you a moment to just settle in. So go ahead and close your eyes if they are closed. Feeling your feet on the ground. Just taking that deep breath. Inhaling through your nose, exhaling through your mouth. That's great. Inhaling through your nose, exhaling through your mouth. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So good to be with you. Keep inhaling through your nose. Exhaling. Just ask yourself, what do you want out of this time right now? The next hour, hour and a half we're going to have together, whatever you can stay for. Just type it into the chat. And first hold it for yourself. And just savor that. Like, what would that be like to have that for myself? Whatever it is. And it's all good, whatever that is for you. It might be to feel connected. It might be to be present, to learn a tip or two. Whatever that is, just savor that and hold on to that for yourself, allowing yourself to just be present with it. Yeah, keep going. You're doing great. Yeah, just keep breathing into that. A lot of times with overwhelm, we are stuck in the overdrive. So this is just a chance to redistribute and re-regulate our nervous system. And it requires conscious effort, as we all are very well aware. All right, so keep going. Open your eyes if they were closed. Just flutter them open and notice what's in the room around you. Is it the colors through a window or in your room? Is there textures that you see? Using your 5 senses. And if you notice you've got a racing mind or a chatter in your head, that's okay. It's normal. Just bring it back. Like, oh yeah, that's me. Right? Yeah. And as you keep going, I want to welcome you back. So who's here from past days? Last week, we had an incredible event called the Overwhelm Fix. Maybe some of you were there as well. And you were there, you were playing, and that's super, super exciting. We had a contest every day. We have a grand prize winner today that I'm going to announce shortly. And we keep going. And that's the thing. I want to share a little story too. So I'm in a training all week long. And what it's actually a training that every summer we do a week-long leadership intensive. So it's literally full week where there's 100 of us on Zoom, and right now we're virtual and we have teams and we're doing things, but we're also in a lot of overwhelm. We're literally living what we're all talking about here, because we're actually using that as almost like a stress test, where you know how you have pressure tests where you check. Well, I'm going to get, I guess this is more of like structural engineering, but like there's tensile strength, and when you like press things, like they either stay or they break, and we don't want to be breaking, but we're all bending, we're all moving into these spaces for that. And so that's what I think this training is all about. It's about how do you bend but not break, because your capacity can increase when you stretch into areas that you don't think possible, or you're allowing yourself to think differently, which is what we're doing in the Overwhelm Fix and what we've done. So I just want to share that with you as a vision, and why it's important to be stretching, and why it's, because that's when we learn the most. Our brains don't change unless we stretch them. Would you agree? Like that's what I think about all the time. Yeah. Who's with me on that one? And I think that, yeah, that's so important to remember. For me, I do want to share, before we get into the training, I'm going to share about the contest. So we have a winner for Thursday. We extended that contest. So the thing was, I wanted to keep people engaged and have people over the weekend play it. And thank you all for playing in the week. Thank you all for being there. And our Thursday contest winner is Jolie, who's here today. So congrats you, Jolie. Woo woo. You are a winner of this exciting, it's a aromatherapy set of spray that's for your face. And there's like a cucumber one and a rose water one. It's the same one I actually offer. I love it so much that I awarded it on the Monday contest. And now I have it on the bookends of the Thursday contest, because I love that so much. Yeah. And I think it's a great time to announce the winner of the grand prize contest, because we're all waiting to hear that. So the grand prize, again, as a reminder, is for those who played full out in the week of the Overwhelm Fix for 2021. You were entering contests, you were loving up your sisters, you were engaged, you were present, you were having some fun for yourself, and really living this in a way that you were, going for it. And I think there were so many people that were playing and stretching themselves. So I just want to congratulate each and every one of you who played, who entered a contest, who commented on a post, who were just there. And I want to share, like, I see you, I saw who was there, and I'm so appreciative of you being in it. And the prize is a $2,000 scholarship that is awarded towards the year-long program, the Thrive, Lead, and Succeed Academy. Yay. So are we ready to announce the winner? Yeah, Rich, I'm really ready. Okay, great. So the winner is, this is going to be funny. Jolie NM. I don't even know if I'm saying your name correctly now, again, the last name, because I never say it, but Jolie, congratulations. I am so proud of you. And I know, you chose to play all out. You showed up, you not only won one contest, you won two contests, and you were cheering on our sisters. And I'm just thrilled that you showed up in the way that you did, because what if everything in your life could be like that? Like, you showed up and you were winning every aspect for yourself, metaphorically, kind of. So yeah, congratulations. I'll be in touch for more information, and we'll get you squared away to come on into the Thrive, Lead, and Succeed Academy. All right. Woo, so let's give it up for Jolie, and high five for you. Another high five. Yeah. And thank you again for all of you who played, because I think that's super exciting that you did. And I'm just really grateful. And hopefully you got something out of it for you. We're not just doing it to do it. We're doing it so that we can stretch and learn and grow too. The other comment I want to make, just in terms of announcements, is in terms of these replays, I've got everything up on the site in the guide section. I think most of you know that. So you can watch as much as you need to right now. It's by day. The guides are going to be up until, actually, I think I keep extending it because I just want to keep them up for a little while longer. They're going to be up through Sunday this week. So you've got all week to watch these, including the masterclass. It's going to be another guide there for this afterwards for Masterclass. And I just encourage you to watch or rewatch. For those of you who have lifetime access, so the these replays will go away after this week. So after Sunday, they won't be available anymore. And for nominal prices, for $35, you can get lifetime access to them, which I'll send out afterwards. So you'll have a link to all of these trainings if you'd like to just have them to watch them when you can. And I encourage you to do that if you are wanting to rewatch something, or you've mentioned or thinking about, like, I love to just revisit this when I can. So that's the idea. And the VIP ticket is a no-brainer if you want to do that. And what that includes is lifetime access, and you get a copy of Pause, the book that I will ship to you. So I'm excited for anyone who can do that. All right. So who's ready to review and have an amazing masterclass on the Overwhelm Fix for 2021? Give me a thumbs up. Woohoo, yay, yes. I know, Jolie, I'm glad you're happy too. I am too. And hi, Nalini. Hi, Sarah and Lisa. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. So let's review our days. We're gonna, like, imagine you're like rewinding our brains, like we're going all the way back to day 1 of the Overwhelm Fix. And who remembers anything from the Overwhelm Fix? Because I'm gonna go back into that here in a moment. But day 1 was all about pause experiments, right? Remember that? So I'm gonna share my desktop here in a moment. But what I would like you to do is just think about, what do you remember about experiments? Like why does it matter to take intentional shifts in behavior and to pause? I am curious if you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to share the slides here in just a moment. Here we go. 1 minute. Here we go. La, la, la. Can everybody see my desktop? I think so. Yeah. So these were the days that we had. I'll just make them possible now. Yep. And we've got the first day was why pause now, and I want to share what that looks like. We covered so many cool things. So remember this first one we talked about, what's the story with the iceberg, right? And so remember, we've got the 93% of our brains are unconscious, which means that whole bottom of the iceberg is kind of what we don't know about. And then we've got this external part of our iceberg, which is the top of the iceberg. And that's like 7%. And that's kind of things that we know and do on the surface. And what are those things on the surface? Well, we've got things like all the things that keep us in our overwhelm, pretty much. To-dos, busyness, email, time, you name it, the things that come up for you. And that's going to be different for all of us. But then what about underneath that? Like the things that maybe we are or aren't conscious of that play into that. We've got the internal mindset. So things like, what do we value? Is it like a potential priority, or the beliefs that we have? Is it our own emotional intelligence to be in relationship with how we feel or with others? And what are we carrying for ourselves in terms of traits? Like things people may or may not see. And our own cultural background even can play into this. So I think what really the idea is, if we superimpose ourselves on this iceberg, you can see our heads kind of are the thing above the water, right? And then the ideal is that we are struggling all the time with like integrating the being with the doing, and what I would call the things that go underneath the iceberg, our mindset, our belief systems about what we could do to change. And I'm saying that because a lot of times we get so focused in our heads and on the external level, like, okay, I got these 10 emails to do, or I've got this I've got only so much time today, I've got 20 minutes for XYZ. Then the reality is, well, yeah, but it's not about the stressors, because those aren't going to go away necessarily. It's about how are we in relationship to that stress, using everything in our holistic beingness and below the surface, our emotional intelligence, or our priorities, and what we can create for ourselves. And when we can do this, then we can change. And it's really like it's challenging times. I know in 2021, where sometimes we don't think it's okay to pause, right? We think we're going to look like slackers, or that we've been taught and trained to like to go is being more productive. And what we're learning, 2020 was a big lesson in this too, is that we just can't keep going at that pace unless we regulate ourselves. And that is required for this under the iceberg model of thinking about like, well, what do I need to sustain myself to keep going above in like moving forward in the external world. And one of the best ways to do this is to name, this is our hack we learned, the 5 alive feelings, right? So the 5 alive, who remembers the 5 alive? They're going to come up in a second here. Fear, hurt, joy, sadness, anger. Fear, hurt, joy, sadness, anger. And just name one right now in the chat. How are you feeling right now with me? And remember, it's not about judging ourselves in this. It's not about good or bad or negative or positive. We've been maybe taught that there aren't, you know, like some feelings are negative or not good. And the reality is we're designed to feel. And when we allow ourselves to feel, we have to use our bodies. It's like we cannot feel in our minds. We can imagine the feeling, but literally our bodies have the receptors and the neurotransmitters and the cellular memory to know how we feel. And so this is a really key aspect of an experiment, a daily pause that I would remind all of you that we have. We also have a checklist in our Facebook group, Be the Pause, under the file section, which has a whole list of daily pauses. This is just one of them. Things like a breath pause, like we just did in the beginning of our call. But I think this is one of the most important ways to feel because it really helps us get in our bodies and be present for that under the iceberg. Because sometimes we don't even know how we feel unless we pause to stop to think about it. And then that becomes a gateway to know so much more and strengthens our own emotional intelligence from our mind-body connection. Because it's not enough to think the feeling, that doesn't work, right? But if we allow ourselves in, and it's like a whole mess, you know, it's like we might have multiple, if it's a stressful day, we might have like 20 million things going on, and we feel a little crazy, right? But the reality is that's not going to change unless if we acknowledge it, we tend to move through it a little easier. And then maybe we notice like, wow, I really just need to do some expressing right now. I need to vent, or I really feel like crying. I did this yesterday morning when I was in my training and I was feeling overwhelmed. Shocker, right? And I was holding a lot. And I just was with 2 women that I know, like not pretty well, but like well enough that I just told them, I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to emote right now. And I did, and I cried, and they were there for me. They just witnessed me. And so I invite you into that space of being like, what would that be like just to witness yourself? Because that's all it really takes. And that's important for all of us. Yeah. All right. So we're zooming through to day 2, but let me hear from the chat first. What's one big takeaway from the first day for you? Go ahead and just type it in. What's like your biggest takeaway, whether it's the iceberg or maybe one of the feelings, anything that's coming up for you right now. And every time you write something down, by the way, this is you integrating the learning. This is you taking it from theory and knowledge, like reading a slide, to actual like interpreting this in terms of how you will bring this into your life. That's a really key component of moving forward to get out of overwhelm. Nothing will change if we just keep thinking about stuff. We actually need to change, right? We need to integrate it in a way where we can take a little thing and just notice that. And every time you do that, you're moving in that direction. Yeah, great. So I'm seeing integrating and iceberg, and yeah, the feelings I think are big ones too, right? So then we talked about owning it on day 2. So we're going into day 2. Owning it, meaning really owning you. Who's the owner? You are, right? And so the golden rule we talked about, anyone remember that? Golden rule? It's about responsibility, personal responsibility, right? So we are each 100% responsible for our own satisfaction and up to 50% of the blame even. So the golden rule, I invite you to be in honor of that. Like, just remember that, because a lot of times we can fall into some of these pitfalls that take us away from that, especially that first one, the drama triangle. And that can be a block to getting out of overwhelm if we're in the drama loop, right? Like drama, oh, why me? This is always happening. I never have enough time. And I wish they wouldn't give this to me to do because it's just so much of this and that. And that's just, if you find yourself in the shoulda, coulda, woulda swamp, or feeling like you are not in that responsible seat, chances are there's probably a little shift that you can do. So what would it look like for you to be 100% responsible? Just owning the overwhelm, owning that you have choices is huge. It's like half of the battle, in my opinion. And so that's what's really important here, because nothing else can change unless you choose to own it, right? We aren't going to, if we're not in control of ourselves, how can we expect anything to change? And all I mean by that is the ownership of our personal responsibility for being with ourselves. Because that's our number one job, to look out for ourselves. And we might have been taught otherwise. Maybe we have certain beliefs in our systems, in our families, or rules that are there that like take care of others. And especially as women, this happens, right? Like, who's with me on that one? Yeah. So know that that's possible. And it just starts with the first step, which is to say yes. Like, I'm owning myself. And that's a big deal if I want to get out of overwhelm. And then the things that get in the way of this are really big too, remember? So the drama triangle, whose favorite role is the victim? Like, who remembers the victim, right? We've got, oh, I've got my flashcard right here, let me grab them. So there's a victim, there's a persecutor, and there's the rescuer, right? Oops, here we go. Pardon me while I bring these up. I just happen to have flashcards around all the time of the drama triangle. And let me hang on a second. I've got my blur screen on, so I want to change that so you see these this time. Give me 1 second. Type in a feeling in the chat there. Cool. Here we go. Going back in. Actually, I don't need to share my screen. I'm back here. So here we are, the drama triangle. Pitfall number 1. So we've got the victim, we've got the rescuer, and then we've got the persecutor. And how do you know when you're in this? Do you need other people? Those are the 2 questions I have for you. Well, first, do you need other people? The answer is no. You could be all 3 of these roles right here. Why did I do this? Oh, you're such a jerk. I can't believe you did that. Like, oh, I'll just go watch Netflix for 2 hours and maybe no one will bother me. Like, you're rescuing yourself. So the red flags are big in this, because they're basically when you're in the blame or shame zone. If you're asking yourself, why me? It's over here. That's really good cues that you're in here. And so number 1 is like owning that you're in it. Like, okay, I'm in it. Remember, there's no judgment here. This is just you being a data detective. Like, oh yeah, I'm in the drama triangle. The number 1 way to get out of this, anyone know that? Anyone remember? So you are naming a feeling. If you name a feeling, fear, hurt, joy, sadness, anger, like to yourself, be like, how am I feeling right now? Oh, I'm just scared. And I don't know if anyone's like me, if you're a big defender, like if you're in the defense mode, what role are we in if we're defending? Well, we feel like we're backed up in the corner here as a victim, right? We're kind of in our corner being like, please don't hurt me. I got to tell you all the reasons why I'm right, or like this isn't true, or what happened. So when we do that, it's usually because we're feeling like in the victim mode, and maybe someone else is you feel like they're the persecutor. Yeah. And then the idea is like when we're in defense, it's a good cue as well. And then there might be a feeling there. So what's the feeling? Oh, I'm just feeling hurt. They didn't really see me. They thought I wasn't trying, but it really was. Picking up what I'm laying down. So the feelings are big. And then, if you've got questions here, just ask them in the chat. I am listening. And yeah, inner drama, right on. And so the idea is that you can change these roles when you think about it. And remember, I told you about this book, David Emerald's, the empowerment dynamic, TED, the empowerment dynamic, TED. And so what happens is the victim can become a creator. I keep tilting this. The victim can be like, what do I want to do differently? I'm not going to do that. Hang on. Like, what's happening? Okay. What can I create now instead? And the persecutor could become instead a challenger, who means you're maybe in rapport with the person, but you're actually challenging that person to think a little differently, but also not blaming or shaming. And then the coach could be the rescuer. So like, how could you help that person align with what matters or what they need? Maybe that's asking what support they need instead of just offering it. And again, you can be all of these roles to yourself as well. Yeah, so there's that one. And then the next one, the pitfall is cognitive distortions. My lovely flashcards here, right? So what is a cognitive distortion? I know they're right on the flashcard. You can type it in, anything that's not objective. Go ahead and type that in, anything that's not objective, which is pretty much many of our thoughts, right? So know that that's happening. If you're in that judgment zone, like whether it's you or someone else, like, ooh, I don't like that red shirt. What the heck is she wearing today? There's probably a feeling behind that. And there's probably some judgment, right? Like, I don't know, I don't look good in red. Why would she wear that? Or she doesn't look good in red. Why would she wear that? And remember, it's just about noticing. So what would be the objective? The objective is using your factual evidence. It's using your 5 senses. I noticed Rachel's wearing red, right? And anything else would be a judgment. But the idea is that the self-critic thoughts, or even negativity bias, which is kind of what our default is. We are wired for scanning and noticing the negative, because that's how we survived thousands and thousands of years. Then we can change this. The red flag is over here. So again, it's like the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, or any of these things even listed here, if you can catch them. And instead of doing this, what's the alternative? Anyone know that? Do you want to just let this run on autopilot? No, right? That doesn't serve us. The idea is we bring in our curiosity. Okay. Remember that we bring in our curiosity. So you could ask yourself, like, what's happening now? Or like one of the things I like to tell myself is like, hang on, right? There's no like mean critical voice there. Hang on. It's like, 1 second, hold please. And then say like, what's happening here? I think that's a great tip. The other question I like to ask is like, what is this a study of, right? Like that's kind of more academic, but I like it because it's like, oh, this is a study of me being judgmental. Interesting. Oh, okay. And then we can use our senses of humor and bring ourselves out a little bit, right? I think that that's a big one too. All right. And then the third one, who remembers the third one? Yeah, we got the task abyss happening. Who's been in the task abyss today? Just today, like the last 2 hours even. I have. I've been well in this, but I'm also like, I feel like I'm this person jump like this little stick figure that I drew, and I'm like going like this, like ooh, 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 ooh. Like I'm in the task, I'm out. Okay, let me get out of the task. Let me do this, and like that's what I'm learning right now. And so I just love this one because we're going to stay in here unless we choose to change. And sometimes that takes a lot of effort. It takes our thinking brain to get out. And so when you're telling yourself, or you hear yourself say, like, just one more email. Okay, I'm not going to get out for water quite yet. It's only been 3 hours. I'm okay. It's all good. Then like, that's the red flag to just say, bring in that curiosity voice again. Say, hang on. How I actually really do need to go to the bathroom. Like, let me just get up now and I'll be fine. And allow yourself to do that. And one of the best tips we've got is the daily pauses, and you can bring those in incremental steps. Set a timer for yourself every 60 minutes when you're doing the time boxing, or like even, setting up little segments of time for yourself in time boxes or time chunking or whatever they'd call it. Every 60 to 90 minutes, the optimal time for a pause is between then, and it could even be like 3 minutes long. And you can set a timer for that and just go back right into it afterwards. You might notice you're feeling refreshed. You looked out the window, you noticed something that you didn't notice before. All of that can activate our rest and digest mode, which activates our whole system to improve. And yeah, every time chunk you have, or pause, like every box you have, you can spend like maybe 3 to 5 minutes every time doing something else. Yeah. How cool would that be? All right. So remember, there's ways that we can get out of those pitfalls. It doesn't have to be the way we think it has to be. And that can really, really improve things. And I'm curious, has anyone tried any of those today? Or not today, but just in general since last week? Has anyone tried to implement any of these, or has something changed? Like something is different? I would just love to hear it in the chat. Maybe you named a feeling, or maybe you took a pause. You like did something different. And maybe you noticed your cognitive distortions and just said, like, being curious, like, what's happening? Right? Yeah. All right. So we're going to go back into the slides here. All right. Hold on a second. Okay. I got you, Darlie. Don't worry about the, yeah, thinking like it's hard to comment and you lose the power. Yeah, that's not fun. Don't worry about it. Do whatever you need to do. Follow those yearnings to stay engaged with what works for you. We're all in our own little limitations sometimes, including technology, right? Yeah. All right, I'm going back to the slides. So we had day 3, which was then going into overcoming resistance. So what does that look like, right? Like list, resist. So what are the excuses that you create in your life that feels potentially like ways that you don't allow yourself to pause or to get out of overwhelm, right? We stay in these loops. We have these loops that we stay stuck in. Well, I'll show you this flashcard otherwise. But that's a big deal. So name in the chat again, like, what are all the excuses that you come up with for not getting out of overwhelm? Like, and it's not by choice, right? A lot of times we're just like, oh, well, that's a little victim-y, right? Like, okay, oh, well, like here I go again. I've got my million things to do list. And guess what? Remember, you are the CEO of your own to-do list. You're the CEO of your own to-do list. And whatever list that is, just know that you have more power than you think. So go ahead and just type in, I am the CEO of my to-do list. It feels really good, I have to say. So go ahead and do that while I grab some water. Sometimes we forget we're the CEOs of our to-do list. All right, so let's go into these, because this day we had more slides than normal, but I love how each one of these lists or each one of these points really does help us overcome our own resistance, because we're the creatures of habit, right? Remember how long it takes to change one habit? Anyone remember that? 33 days for one habit. And when we have keystone habits that change, like the mega habits, I'll call them, then these other little habits can change. So just know, if we're looking to change habits, this is why it can be really frustrating, because we think after a week we should get it. We got this. Like, why haven't I changed already? I'm the CEO of my to-do list. Why don't I know this already? God, I can't believe I messed this up again. I'm just not getting it. So that's when you say, hang on, brain, Mr. Brain, Miss Brain. What is this a study of? Oh, I'm just impatient with myself, right? Maybe naming a feeling. I just feel fear. I just don't want to keep doing these things the same way. And I'm a little sad, right? Yeah. And then we've got the way out, our way through is this great tool, the law of little things. Right on, Sarah. It is a great, exciting thing, because look at this person on the left of the ladder with all those little steps, right? That person is way climbing, way high up in the sky, almost to where they need to go. And it's because these little incremental steps have helped them get there. Whereas on the right, our dear friend at the bottom, we can't even reach the first rung because it's been set in a little more lofty position than it probably needs to. And so I have lived this tool, this metaphor and thinking about the law of little things, Volt, helps me get unstuck. And it has become a way of life, in that instead of thinking about the 10 things I need to do and writing in like the big end goal, I can just say, what's the next thing I need to do with this? And it might just be like, the next thing is to just write it down, right? And that's how change happens over time. And the metaphor I like to use, which I've heard my mentor say this, is imagine the Grand Canyon. We all know the Grand Canyon and what it looks like, but how did it get to the way it looks today? Well, over millions and millions of years, little tiny raindrops formed. They fell, there was wind, and there wasn't anything there millions and millions of years ago, but due to rain falling and rivers forming and moving, carving out rock, we now have one of the greatest wonders in the world. but it wouldn't have happened unless all those millions and millions of raindrops had fallen. And it took literally millions and millions. And that's sometimes what it takes us to do too. But I love that thought, because the Grand Canyon didn't happen overnight. There's no way it could have even been close to that unless the law of little things was at play. And so imagine your own Grand Canyon. Like, what is that for you? Is your Grand Canyon a project that you're working on, or your next adventure? Is it your career? Is it your relationship? Which area of life is that a focus for right now? Is it your own self? Is it your family? I work a lot with the areas of life, these 7 areas that we looked at a little bit, but it's basically body, self, relationship, family, career, community, and spirituality. And each one of those could be a little law of little things to move whatever way you want to moving forward. All right. And then what the next thing is remember our poles of the fear, the role fear plays in anything, whether it's choosing to do the next little thing, or how we show up in a challenge, or getting out of overwhelm, right? When we feel that list of resist, like everyone just type into the chat if you can, what's one thing you're up against to change? Like, what is it that you tell yourself as an excuse? What's the number one thing on your list to resist? Resist, like, I don't have time. I don't have those resources. I'm too old. I'm too young. Whatever it is, name it. I don't have experience. I don't live in the right place. Like, we just have an umpteen number of things. For me, I feel like right now, it's like I don't have the experience. Yeah, that might be one for me. I don't have the experience. I'm just gonna keep staying in the overwhelm of not trusting my own gut and doing things that I need to do. So fear is a feeling. Remember, the one of the 5 primary emotions. And we've got 2 poles of the feeling. And this is true for all the primary feelings, by the way. There's what I would call on the left side here. Look at this, I'm gonna draw. Am I gonna draw? Hold on. Oh yeah, here we go. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, drawing. I think you can see my mouse, right? Oh, spotlight, what is that? Okay, I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna have to work on my drawing. I don't know. I'm trying to use these new Zoom tools, and they're not new. But look, arrow, is that working? Oh, I have to go to the thing. I was going to the Zoom, but I'm going to the thing. All right, so now I get it, everybody. Yay, I figured it out. 1 second. I'm gonna do the mouse. Okay, so I had this already. Yeah, so what is going on? All right, sorry. So, all right, enough with the tools. I'm just gonna not worry about them. So I was doing it. Yes, we've got the right pole, which is trust, and then we've got the left pole, which is the opposite. So when you feel like you're in scarcity, right? And there's a choice. Every time you have a feeling, you can choose whether you're going to orient towards fear, being the trusting yourself in the fear, or scarcity, meaning like, I'm going to let the fear block me. I'm going to let the fear take the driver's seat, because I don't know that's really scary. I don't know what's happening. I'm in the unknown, and I just don't know. I don't trust what's happening. I don't trust myself in some way or shape or form that's going on. And the idea is that it's like, this is why it's so important that you know how you feel, because then you can do something about it that feels really grounding and really clean, I would say, like as a choice. You'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to trust myself right now. And this is a great example, because the principle that's aligned with this, it's not on the slide, but I'm going to share a little bonus here, is aliveness. So think about when you're feeling fear, how alive do you feel? You feel pretty alive, right? Because you're like, oh my God, my life's at stake. I'm going to run for the hills. My heart is beating out of my chest. Right. So just know that that's going on as well. And a lot of times we're like, oh, like, I don't want to feel that. It's scary. But again, this is your aliveness. How cool is that? So you're just noticing maybe how alive you are, and it's something new. And that's why it's scary. That's why there's fear there. When we choose to be in scarcity, which is when we're usually unconscious or on autopilot, or when we aren't trusting ourselves, then we kind of have limiting beliefs going on usually. And then the same is true for when we feel that trust, we can orient to the empowering beliefs that are there. And remember, there's no good or bad on this polls. Like sometimes we really need to be in scarcity because we are in trouble or our lives are in danger. By all means, that's all good, right? And then other times we can use our trust. Maybe it's imagined fear. Like it's not really real, but we think it is because our brains can't tell the difference. And so the role of fear is really big when we're in resistance because there's usually a fear there. And sometimes, and this is going to maybe blow our minds here, but sometimes we don't want to change because it's just what we know. And that's the comfort. It's that there is actually a attachment to feeling that because it's what we know. Is that making sense? And so the idea is we can get out of that. We can choose to get out of that. And it takes new things to do. It takes courage. But if we can stop and say, okay, hang on, I've got a choice. Wow, okay, I know I am feeling fear. I'm noticing that my heart's racing and I'm shaking and my teeth are chattering and I'm breathing faster. It's all up here in my chest. But I'm going to choose to trust I'm okay. And that's the key, is being with ourselves in the moment. And that's what we learn in the Thrive, Lead, and Succeed Academy. That's what we learn. We learn how to trust ourselves because we are creating new empowering beliefs and we're orienting towards those and moving in those day by day, moment by moment, and creating that capacity within ourselves to get out of overwhelm, I think, which is pretty exciting. Yes. All right. And then we got the 4-step recipe to get out of overwhelm. And this was even a contest on Wednesday, remember. So the 4-step recipe is here. So if you're feeling resistance, like let's say, let me get rid of this awesome arrow that I put up here. Where does it go? Erase, clear all my drawings. Okay, yay, there it's gone. When we can feel, when we're noticing that resistance and we just can't get out of like that scarcity mindset, then I would invite you to try these 4 steps. So the first one is to name a feeling. Fear, hurt, joy, sadness, anger. Okay, 1 of the 5. Well, it's not joy. All right, it's anger. Oh, yeah, I'm a little scared too, I guess. And then get curious. Bring in that curious voice. Like, what's happening here? What's, it's not good or bad. It's just like imagine yourself observing you. Like, what is happening? Imagine, and then 3rd step, imagine that idea of fear and like choosing to trust, right? So it's like choosing trust, and maybe there's an empowering belief or a new belief you can create for yourself. Like, I'm okay. I got this. And the key isn't to force that upon you. That's also really important because then your body will be like, yeah, right. Like, are you kidding me? That's not true. And so the idea is that we need to kind of be gentle with ourselves and know that, even just saying like, I'm okay right now, it doesn't have to be some superstar comment that we say. It could just be like, yeah, I'm okay no matter what. That's an empowering belief. And it really helps to just orient towards that, because that's also a little thing, right? It's not like I am the owner of everything I do, and I have no more scarcity. You get the idea. It's not like these bigger things, but the key is when you're feeling fear to orient and have that choice, because we all have the choice once we are conscious of it. Okay. And again, it's like you could choose either one. There's no right or wrong, but sometimes we can learn and train ourselves to keep going towards that trust pull when the fear isn't real. When we are doing things that are new, sometimes we just think that that's fear, but the reality is it's just the unknown. And our brains, of course, are going to think that's okay, that they're scared, because that we're all scared of the unknown, right? So choosing all of those things. And then the final one is picking one little thing, the law of little things. So what's one thing that you can do towards this resistance? Well, maybe I'll go through these 4 steps again. Or maybe I'll tell myself out loud, like my new empowering belief. Maybe I'll write this down. I'll journal for 2 minutes, Yeah. So I'm curious, like for all of you watching this, and even if you're in the replay of it, what is it that, write down what the thing is that you want to use this for? Like, what's your list resist? Is it the excuse that you came up for already? Yes, wavering intentions. That's great, Nalini. But the idea is when we kind of think about it in action item terms, then we're more likely to apply it. And you can see my examples here. right? So if email was mine, like, oh my God, I have so many emails to do. Well, I'm going to do 2 30-minute segments a day, and I'm going to focus there. I'm just going to prioritize that. When I get them on my calendar, they're going to be done. Cool. And then like, I might even feel better about them. And then another example might be, well, my resistance, like I'm too busy. One of my favorites. And you can calendar yourself. If you don't have time, then what would you be willing to create for yourself? And this is, we kind of get into this a little later with boundaries, but what can you do? And it might just be one day a week for 30 minutes or 15 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever it is for you. And then you could even write it down, like me time, make it private, and it can help with you creating that. And even just seeing that in the calendar could help to feel a little more like in the mode of not in overwhelm so much. Right? Okay, so what's one big takeaway from day 4 here? I think we got through everything. Yeah. Curious what came up for you. I'll give you a moment to think about that. All right. Yes. And then we talked about self-soothing, which is one of my favorite topics, in less than 5 minutes a day. And one of the things that I mentioned was, remember this? The worry wheel. Remember how easy it is to get in our heads about what feels worrisome to us? And I love it because it's funny. It's like, you know, why me? Or like, do I have a problem? And then it's like, no. Okay, then why worry? And like, do you have a problem? Yes. Well, then can you do anything about it? Not really. Well, then why worry? You know, it's meant to be humorous, but I think we all get the idea there. So a lot of times this is just happening, but we don't necessarily recognize it. I think it's funny. And on day 4, yeah, the nourishment day, remember we talked about what is nourishment? What does that mean? We talked about the 7 secrets of self-soothing and how to activate more oxytocin. So let's go to nourishment first, because I think that's a big one. Who remembers anything about nourishment? Who wants to share? Like, what does nourishment mean to you? I'm curious if we can kind of group mind, think that one through. Nourishment, yeah, nourishment, we think is sometimes things that we've been told by the media or in Western culture that we think are fulfilling to us, right? It could be a myriad of things. Usually it's around like pampering ourselves or like relaxing, like things that help us escape the moment into things like spa bliss and like getting our nails done and things like that. It could also mean a delicious meal, and that is truly physically nourishing. And the idea is that nourishment, though, we've been kind of misled in this area, especially as women. And no wonder burnout is at an all-time high, and no wonder people feel depleted, even if they have otherwise seeming and appearingly great lives, because they're not getting nourished. So nourishment is anything that helps you learn and grow, right? So it's things that you're learning and growing from. And the second key part of this is that it needs to be in the here and now. It meaning you need to be present for it. And so think about your list of things that might be nourishing and like that you so-called thought nourishing. And maybe there's some on there that meet those criteria, but maybe there's some that aren't. So I just ask you, like, take a look at what is nourishing in your life? Like, what are you doing for yourself that feels nourishing? Like if you're here in this class and you're here on the Masterclass, thumbs up and props to you. That to me, I think is really nourishing. You are learning and it's in the present moment. Even if you're watching the replay, you're like present with yourself. That totally counts. Right. And so even when we're being challenged, right? Like maybe we are in a hard spot, like we are being tested in ways that feel really pressurizing and challenging. The idea is that if we can choose to trust ourselves and be present with ourselves, that can actually be really nourishing, because you're like, wow, look at me. I'm learning and growing right here. Whoa, like who knew this was going to be even possible? I have no idea how to even go forward, but I feel okay. And I know like I'm totally feeling my fear, but I'm going with it. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just going to choose to trust. So you can see how all this stuff starts to fold together, right? And so that's why nourishment is so important, in that if we don't if we're not present to it, then it just kind of washes over us. Like we don't even get it. We don't allow it in, which is why I think burnout is really at all-time high levels, because we're so in the task abyss, right? Or we're so drawn in ways that we aren't present potentially, that we miss that nourishment. Rick Hansen, who wrote The Buddha's Brain, and he wrote Resilient. He wrote the new book Neurodharma. He's great. He's on one of my podcasts called the Pausecast. He and I do a whole interview together. He says, if we don't stop and take 15 to 20 seconds for anything positive that happens to us, meaning like nourishment, we don't even absorb it. Like it doesn't affect us. It's not going to change our neural wiring. How about that? And that's the whole negativity bias that we're kind of structured for. So we really need to savor what we do. And that's part of being nourished, I think. Isn't that cool? So just think about that. The next time you get a compliment or something nice happens to you, you see the sun, it shines on your face. Like you can savor those times and be like, wow, like I'm learning to pause and be in the sun and feel this. I must be getting nourished. And then we get our yearnings met. We feel connected, and we feel like we're mattering and that we're alive and all these cool things. So know that that's happening too. We also talked about the 7 secrets to self-soothing. Remember, we did these all together. So let's go ahead and do these now. This will be fun. This is like one of the favorite things to do. So these are from Linda Graham and her book, which is awesome, around just like how we can release oxytocin. And that's one of the key drivers of stress release and getting into our rest and digest mode, so our adrenals can feel replenished, so that we sleep through the night, so that we feel more calm and resourced. Resource is one of my new words, and I just love using it, because I'm like, yeah, like I want to be resourced. And when we're not present, then how can we be resourced? We just can't. It just doesn't work, because we're not present to know we're like, wow, I'm getting resourced right now, right? So that's exciting. So let's do these 7 secrets. And again, you could do these anytime. They were in the workbook if you had them, and you can still get the workbook, which is on day 4. That's here. All right. So the first one is a conscious belly breath. So go ahead and just uncross your legs, close your eyes, and take one deep breath with me. Inhaling through your nose. Hold it at the top. And then release it slowly, blowing through your mouth, a little slower than the inhale. Open your mouth, open your eyes and your mouth. Breathe normally. So when we exhale longer than the inhale, we slow down our emotional response system. Does anyone notice that they are a little bit more in tune or slowed down with your emotional response? I know that's what I feel for me. Yeah. All right, now let's do these other ones. So we're going to take our hands. Let's give ourselves this vagal nerve start of oxytocin release. So just like you're kind of, imagine you're massaging your scalp or you're washing your hair. Just give yourself a nice, gentle, but soothing scalp massage. Oh my gosh. This is great. And then move down to your temples. And then your face. Scrunch up your face. Oh, your nose, the tip of your nose. And your jaw. We just love to hold tension in our jaw. And then wherever else you need and want to have attention, maybe your ears. You can do this for 1 minute with me. 1 minute is a release enough to activate more oxytocin. Do this for a minute. It's so good. Oh my gosh. And then we're going to move into our vagal nerve massage. So take your fingers, if you can, place them in your back of your neck, where your spine meets your scalp, like right where you feel that indentation at the top of your spine. Just give a little massage in there. Yeah. Oh, super good. And then a little more time here. And then you're gonna hug yourself just for 20 seconds. Just cross your arms, give yourself a little squeeze. Good night. Feel your fingers on your arms. Oh, so good. Self-hugging ourselves. Making a little cocoon here. All right, and now let's close our eyes. Breathing normally. And picture something or someone that you love. And go ahead and just send love to that person, place, or thing. Keep imagining you're sending so much positive love into that person. If you picture them in your mind's eye of the thing. Allowing yourself to be fully present. What are you noticing? Yeah, so open your eyes if they were closed. Nice job. I'm feeling different already. I don't know who else is feeling different, but I am. Now we're going to look at how do you create a love nest on your area of work or a favorite nook in your home. That might mean you surround yourself with loved ones from pictures. They would trigger anything that when you see them, you feel joy or love. You're feeling and thinking that on your own. And the idea is wherever you are, you have like a constant reminder of that on your desk or in a favorite workspace or where you like to hang out at home. And I would advise you to have it in plain sight. It's not something you whip out of a purse or that's in a drawer. It's like it's always there. That's the love nest. If you can do that, I highly recommend it. And then, yes, the last one is put your hand on your heart. And then, imagine anytime that you feel fear or you're scared or uncertain, even when you're about to do something scary, take the breath and feel your heart underneath your hand if you can, or just know your heart is connected to you. Putting a hand on your body can help make that feel a little stronger. Breathing in and exhaling out. You can open your eyes, taking your hand away. Yeah. That's it. Those were the 7 secrets. Nice work. Yeah. And I just want to read you a little bit more. So there's a few other things to remember. And this is in this really, really nice, awesome book I found. I just picked it up one day. It's called Pause. And this person wrote a bunch of stuff about intentional shifts in behavior. You might know her name is Rachel O'Mara. And so a couple other parts that she mentions that I want to talk about, so wrapping yourself in a warm, cozy blanket during your downtime can be a great nourishment self-care practice. So that can be a shawl, that can be just something that you have maybe on the back of a chair or a couch, but it's like you're in your own adult swaddle blanket, right? Just imagine how happy kids are when they're all swaddled up in their little swaddles like newborn babies. Well, it works as well for adults, but sometimes we just forget to do that. It embodies that feeling of security and feeling safe. Another thing you can do, if you want to try this with me right now, is just simply rocking your body back and forth. Yeah. So imagine yourself just swaying side to side, and try this if you can. You can go back and front, forward and back. Just find whatever rhythm feels good for you. It also has this rocking quality has an enormous soothingness to it, right? You could even be in that blanket as you rock. We all have seen rocking chairs and know that that's an option, or a swing, but just know that even if you don't have those, you can do it in a chair. You can do it sitting down, whatever way it feels comfortable. And let's say you are preparing for some big thing and you feel a little stressed, I would invite you to just try this. Try a couple rocks, literally like maybe 10 seconds. And breathe. Just maybe name the feeling, like I'm feeling a little scared right now. It's like, oh, okay. So we can be much more gentle when we're not activated by those triggers. We can actually be in relationship and more calm and with ourselves, to just be with ourselves in the present, even when we're in the fear. And if we are activating our rest and digest mode, then it's very much more possible, right? That makes sense, right? Yeah. And then adopt a stuffed animal. So I don't have my friend here with me today, Miss Amigdala Hijack, but what I would call a stuffy is someone you can love unconditionally. And it's really powerful because it becomes an extension of you. So you can just have it on your shelf next to you. You can bring her along to places, but the idea is that this is a soothing, fun way to be present for yourself and just honor your little girl, your inner child that is always there with you. Maybe they're a little scared too. And if you're able to have this, it just makes things that much more comforting. And then the last one is to take a 5-minute nourishment pause. So this is more like a daily pause. Have your favorite cup of tea or coffee, or go outside for a walk. Have a one song dance party in your living room, and buy yourself a beautiful plant or flowers and tell them how much you appreciate that beauty. Call a friend to connect, or ask her give a hug if you can. And just do anything that makes you feel nourished. Again, it's in that learn and grow spot to feel fully present. All right, so who does feel different? I'm so curious if anyone feels different. Just type in like feel different, because chances are you do feel different. Yeah. All right. Great job self-soothing. And I'm wondering, how do people feel right now? I'm so curious. I know I feel pretty good. I'm gonna drink some more water here. Yeah. I just feel like I had a nap. Anyone else feel like they had a nap? It's pretty awesome. Are you starting to see how things can be different with overwhelm? I know that for me, it's definitely changed my relationship with overwhelm as well, because I can change it to myself. But if we're not conscious to what's going on, or our beliefs and things like that, then it's really hard to change anything, because you don't know where you're going. You don't know where you're starting, right? I think that makes sense. Yeah, so then we're moving into our last segment. The last day was our day about boundaries and owning what's up for us. And so it was a really powerful day, just in terms of like, what can we do differently? How do we set ourselves up for success, right? So does anyone remember anything about that? Anyone want to share? Here's some slides. Nice. Yes, Julie, I love it. And yeah, I'm glad you guys are feeling different. And remember the self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm just super small here, but can you see this? Oh, not really. There. Well, why do I need this slide up here? Hold on a second. There you go. So the self-fulfilling prophecy is essentially like this huge deal where we kind of get into our own mind traps. We get into our own way of doing things. There might be like overwhelm resistance, or just staying stuck in the patterns we're in, or feeling overwhelmed, or feeling stressed out and fatigued. And the idea is that it's unless we change how we are and what we believe, nothing will change. Nothing, absolutely nothing. As I've been reminded many times, the whole world is a projection of what we know and think about ourselves. So that's a little aside. Won't get into that one. But remember, the idea is that when you, like, we start down here, like whatever your belief is, like one of those excuses you might have about resistance or like resisting change, right? With overwhelm, maybe it's like, well, I'm too busy to take a training, and well, obviously you aren't too busy because you're here, but maybe it's like, I'm too busy to change anything, or like I have too much on my plate already. And so that'll change, that influences how you act, right? And so maybe you don't do what you really want to do, and you stay stuck in this mode. Oops, sorry, it's over here. The arrows are going this way. So you do your action, and other people might witness you in this, like, wow, like we just got a lot going on. I guess I'm not going to ask her to join me to go to the park. And then they don't ask you. It might be like the result is that like their action is different than how it would be. And then it kind of fuels your own belief. Like you see people not asking you to do things. You're like, well, I guess I don't have enough time. And I have too much on my plate. So I'm just going to, that's the way it is. I'm going to change stuff. I'm not going to change stuff. So what you're doing reinforces your action because of your belief, but it reinforces other people's beliefs, which then influence what they do and think about you, which is kind of like keeping that whole cycle in play. And so the idea is, unless we change our beliefs into those empowering beliefs, then we're not going to change our behavior, and then no one else is going to change their behavior because we don't have that change in ourselves. We're not going to do anything different. And then we're the ones who, you've always heard this, I'm sure, like change starts with us, with you. So go ahead and type that into the chat, right? Change starts with me. And it's very true, I'd say. We can't expect much else unless we're willing to do that. Get out of that loop. All right, here we go. I'm sharing now. All right, so the idea is, right now, where do we go from here? What do we think? So boundaries are a big part of this, right? And a list of non-negotiables is a good place to start. I heard a lot of people who signed up for the training and just like feedback about this, and especially in our group, is like, well, how do I don't know what to prioritize. I've got a million things to do. So that might be true, right? But the key is actually knowing you can negotiate. You can, again, it comes down to your choice. We all have these choices. You might have chosen not to do anything. That's a choice, right? It's still a choice. It might not be a conscious one. But the idea is to make a list of what nourishes you. What is it that nourishes you? It might be things that really fuel you. I put a couple of things down here that really feel really authentic to me. I love getting sleep, as I'm sure many of us do. I love yoga once a week, and I love going outside by noon. And those are like things that I would say I really want in every single week or my day. And so sometimes, like this week, I don't have time to do yoga. I'm not going to be doing it. I did get outside today, and I'm going for 7 hours of sleep. But it's more in like a general sense. So it's not about absolutes, right? It's like we're only human. So sometimes we might have to bend and ebb and flow a little bit. But then what is it, what would be your, like for these 2 or 3 things on your non-negotiable list? It doesn't have to be many things. It could be one thing. What's a rule that you would want to create for yourself ongoing? And so it might be like, I go to bed by 11:30 p.m. or I schedule in my calendar my yoga class once a week. And if I don't do it Thursday, I'll move it to Friday. I make it a point that when I go to the kitchen for my drink of coffee, then I also go outside and just take in the sunlight. Right. So like even just planning this gives us so much like authority and knowing that we are the creators of our day and our week and everything else. And again, that's the responsibility part. And this can feel really satisfying, even just doing this. It may not mean you follow through with everything, but it's a great start. Remember a lot of little things too. And then you can think about what drains you. And this might be a list of 1 or 3 things as well. You're kind of like the opposite of your non-negotiables. Well, it's like, okay, I don't like it when I'm in the task abyss. So like that would be a drain, or you could put that down. And that includes not shutting down my laptop. And if I'm scrolling social media, God forbid, if it's too early or too late, that's just not serving me, and so on and so forth. So the idea is when you have these lists for you, is there anything you can delegate to get off your plate? And it could be household chores. It could be things that maybe you share with people in your household, but sometimes there just isn't an option for that. Obviously, like you can't get your dog or your parrot to answer your emails. Like you probably have to do that yourself, or let alone it's someone else in your household. So how do you want to prepare for this? And what I mean by that is, instead of thinking of it like a chore or like dreading it or avoiding it, what I invite you to do again is kind of bring in that curiosity and engage. And engaging, I know I didn't talk about it too much this time in the overwhelm fix, but engaging is like the number one skill that we can use to cope and get out of overwhelm, especially in 2021, now that things are opening up and things are seeming to be changing, hopefully for the long term in a better way, being with each other and having things open again. So as long as we're engaging, how can you engage in a way that feels meaningful for you? Some of these things that drain you, they might not be so bad anymore. For example, if you like not shutting down the laptop, I guess is a pretty easy one, because you could choose like, okay, I'm gonna set my clock and know that when I'm done with work, I've got 15 minutes to wrap everything up, and I'm gonna say, okay, laptop's down, close my screen. But maybe it's something like, I don't know if anyone has a good example you want to put in the chat, feel free, what drains you. But it might be like cutting the lawn. As a kid, I hated this. And how I could prepare for that is, I'm gonna listen to my favorite songs. And I'm gonna like think of this as exercise, because I am getting exercise and I'm outside. And that's one that I just pulled out of the thin air here. But like that's how I made it fulfilling for me and I didn't have a choice as a kid, right? When we're in our chores as teenagers, I just hated that chore of mowing the lawn, and I had to do it like every week for years. And so, it's about what can you do to engage, whether it's with yourself or someone else, and make it into something for you, because that's what it can be. And sometimes, instead of dreading it or thinking like, oh, this is terrible, you're just reinforcing those negative thoughts. So why not be in that curious mind and try something else? All right. So hopefully that makes sense, right? Yeah. And then we talked about boundaries too, and like, how do you extend those? So the idea is that we can continually be thinking about boundaries, where we can set expectations, limits, and we can set our boundaries, expectations, and limitations for ourselves, so that others and ourselves know about it. But the problem is, we get up against our beliefs and we think like, oh, I can't do that. Or, I feel so guilty. Or even the word saying no, like, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that today. Basically saying no to someone or something when you feel like you got to please them, or like it's like you're again, it's a belief to think that you need to be pleasing others potentially. Anyone here in that camp? I feel like all of the above apply to me historically. So the idea is to just notice this. And when you say, like when you say no, this is a great law of little things at exercise, to just practice saying no. And don't think of it like no as an absolute. Like no just means no, not right now. And we need to be practicing saying no if it feels challenging. And you can start with the easy stuff, right? Like just playing with this one a little bit, whether it's, like pass the salt and you say no, or you go to a store and someone says like, can I hold the door for you? You say no. But these are you exercising in your brain, because that's the thing. No, nothing will change again unless we bring in those neural networks and start to build in the new belief systems. Remember the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And as women, I think we do feel guilty in this. It's so easy to just say, oh my God, I could never do that. And this person will not they'll just hate me, or you kind of jump to those conclusions. And we're in those cognitive distortions usually when this happens. And guilt is a condition we put on ourselves. And it's a combination of a lot of those primary emotions, right? There might be a little, and it's going to be different for all of us, depending on how we are up in our upbringing. So you might feel some anger, you might feel some hurt, you might feel some fear, you might feel some sadness, basically anything but joy. Usually you don't feel joy when you feel guilty. But the idea is to like reframe this a little bit and be like, how is this for me, right? Because remember, 100% responsibility is going for your own satisfaction. And so this is what we work on in the academy too, because this is not done overnight, but you can start to think about things differently so that you can create new boundaries, that you can set expectations differently because you have these new beliefs you're orienting to, and you're using that to learn how to trust yourself in the fear. And you'll actually realize most of the time that these are just distortions. Like the guilt is nothing except what we've put on ourselves. And that can change when we start to feel more empowered. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. I know that that's that. Yeah. And then, right. We we don't want to take on anyone's stress as they guilt trip you. Right. And that's a little bit of drama, right? Like if you're feeling guilt trip, chances are there's some blame, shame, and justification going on at some level. And so the idea is to just recognize it, right? The first step is awareness, and know that it's not your job for you to take on anyone else's anything. It's your job for your own satisfaction. And I mean, and like, I know we could get into nuances of this if there's, like kids aren't the same. We're talking about adults here. We're talking about like people, like full grown adults where each of us are responsible for our own satisfaction. And like, man, what a world would that be if all of us did that on a day-to-day basis? I think that'd be a pretty great world to live in, although I know that's not reality. But if we can all do our part, you're going to be on your way to starting to create that world for yourself. I think that's pretty cool. Right. And then we've got also like, how do you feel supported? And my lovely stick figure drawings here, I think it just captured it so well, where we're like the person in the middle here of the center. This is us in our day-to-day, our big heart-led lives. And there's all these like gray lightning bolts everywhere. That's just, the muck of everything of the day-to-day world. It might be the mud that you got on your shoe. It could be like the bad milk that you tried in your coffee, whoops, before that came out. It could be like something someone said to you that didn't feel good, or you felt rejected for something. It could be anything, right? And then we've got these little lovely ladies in the whole circle, and that's like our sisterhood, right? I think of this as in my sisterhood of Be the Pause, our community, and we're all in service to helping you rise above all that muck in the world and the day-to-day stressors, to be your best self, which is this lovely red star here on the screen. But we can't get there unless we have the support of others, whatever that means for you. And usually it means, people beyond your family. Families are families, and there might be really supportive people in there, but we also need like what I call allies, who are individuals that are like with you side by side to say the truths that maybe a friend wouldn't say, or to help support you in a tough time, and to move into these new beliefs that are happening, but you're not quite sure that you're ready or know what they could be, for what that would look like for you. And so the sisterhood is a huge part of success, I think, going forward, because no one can do it alone. So no matter what, I invite you to like stick around in the sisterhood, contribute, be here, engage again, and like keep going for your own satisfaction, because that's where you'll notice that things can change. You might notice like, wow, I didn't think anyone would respond to my post, and there's 20 people here. And if you're still thinking about the Thrive, Lead, and Succeed Academy, like, awesome. That's a great, tremendous sisterhood. We've got a handful of women in that class right now, and anyone who joins would join us there. And we do all of this work together. So you're not alone, and you get to learn what it's like to be in this realm, to notice, yeah, like, wow, like my boundaries are changing. And I do feel that I'm trusting myself more. And I notice these beliefs that come up that aren't true, and I'm able to change them. And so no one can do that on our own, because remember the iceberg, right? When we're unconscious, how do we know what we don't know? So we need that. We need all of us lifting each other up. Yeah. And to remind you all, I know I've got this last slide here about booking a call. And so for those of you who've booked a call, awesome. But I still wanted to give you this last moment to do this. Today is the last day for calls. So this is the time of this recording is Wednesday, June 23rd. There's still time. If you haven't booked a call already, or you're new to the program, go ahead and book one. We've got our coaches. I'm just touched that you've been hanging in there and wanting more for yourself. And we want to serve you. I want to support you to be going on your next steps. And saying yes to what that looks like for you and helping you carve that out in the Pause to Thrive strategy session. Yeah. So any other questions? We got through everything, and it's actually, we're right on time. So I want to honor that, but just just go ahead and put one takeaway into the comments if you're here, or if you're watching the replay, put one thing into the comments as like, how are you going to take this and move forward in your life? How about that? Because I'm all about like moving into the next steps of your life and like integrating this work. What will be different? Maybe you're envisioning a different way of being. Maybe you're imagining how you could be in the world, but no, it's all good. I'm so excited for you, and I'm excited to support you in this. I know these tools are life-changing. You've only gotten a taste of it here today. I encourage you to keep going with me, stay informed, be in the newsletter, and in my newsletter, and in this group, you'll learn more about all of this stuff, because I know I'm always sharing many things about it, and there's way more for all of us here, and we're doing it. You are on your way to getting out of overwhelm. So with that, thank you so much for being here, ladies. And you can watch the replay. I'll put it in the guides, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for being a part of the Overwhelm Fix. Congrats again to Jolie for like crushing it in the contest and winning our grand prize. And I will see you here soon. Bye-bye.